Did you hear that noise? Let's play it again. That kind of sounds like a drum roll type noise, and that should not be coming from a car. So let's take a deeper look into it. So I have the car in here and I want to check out the front end because to me it sounded like the noise we had was coming from the front. So it's important to start with, well, locating the area of the noise. So just looking around in the wheel well, I see a lot of new parts here. So clearly someone's been doing some work, but just looking at it with a flashlight, I see something that stands out to me and I might have just found our issue. Unfortunately, cars break, but fortunately sometimes the issues are obvious to where if you just take a look with a flashlight and give it a quick visual inspection, you'll find the issue that is present. Here's a little hint for you, and if you want to take a guess as to what the problem is, leave it in the comment section below, and keep in mind that no matter what the problem is that you're trying to solve, check out One Auto for your parts and kits that'll get your car fixed up. I'm going to give this car a bounce test, and what that means is I'm going to press on each corner of the vehicle. We're just going to focus on the front for this particular situation, and we're going to see how much the car or the corner of the vehicle bounces up and down. Here you can see a side-by-side comparison of the driver's side and the passenger side, and you'll notice how the driver's side bounces or goes up and down a whole lot more than the passenger side. And to illustrate this even better, here's a tape measure that shows you the distance traveled on each side. Clearly, we have a problem right here. So let's put it up in the air, take the wheel off, and let me show you what the problem really is. If you guessed struts, you guessed right, because this car has a blown strut, or almost blown, on the driver's side front. You can see that from the oil leaking out of it and the bounce test that we did. Both of those are clear indication. So what is a strut? It is a shock absorber surrounded by a coil spring. The coil spring is there to hold the weight of the vehicle. It doesn't absorb any shocks. That is the shock absorber's part. And in this case, well, it can't do that very well anymore because with it leaking the oil that's supposed to be in it, it can't provide any more resistance to the wheel. So in more severe conditions, this vehicle isn't at that point yet, you'll see that the wheel, as soon as you hit a bump, kind of just goes like this until it settles because the spring is just kind of like a trampoline. It's just going up and down, bouncing anything off of it that is pushing up against it. So this can actually also play into the safety aspect of things. It can be a safety concern because under cornering or braking, you can actually have the vehicle dip to that one side or become unstable on that side where the shock or strut has failed. And that's why it's important to get this fixed as soon as you can. Inspecting your vehicle periodically can help you avoid surprise repairs in the future if you find, well, something like what we found here. It's important to replace these left and right at the same time so that you can have a vehicle that rides nice and even. Now you can get this easily from oneauto.com because the kits that are available there will come with both struts in just one click of a button. And when you do actually inspect the vehicle and you find some oil, you'll typically find it at the bottom of the spring if it's on a strut. If it's just a shock, it'll just be kind of all over the bottom half of it. Rust can also be an issue, of course, if you live in a rust-prone climate. The cartridge can rust out to the point where it's, well, no longer doing its job. And it can also fail internally. The seals could blow out, but that's less common than everything else. So there's not much repairing to do here because replacing these assemblies is the only solution. And I said assemblies because I'm putting a new spring and shock, basically strut assembly on. It's a whole lot easier to do this because you don't have to have a special spring compressor, compress the spring, get it out of there, transfer it to the new one. I find it a lot more efficient to do this, of course, left and right side. So let's get this car fixed up. On most vehicles, replacing the front struts is not a huge job. You do have to raise and support the vehicle safely and remove the front wheels. Depending on the suspension type that you have, if you have an upper control arm, you may need to disconnect the ball joint, or the strut might actually be clamped on directly to the knuckle. Regardless, remove the bolts on the lower half. Then under the hood, remove the bolts or nuts on the upper half going through the strut tower. Remove the strut and reverse the process to install your new one. Of course, make sure you torque everything down to spec so it can be properly secured, and then do the same on the other side like I mentioned. You want that vehicle riding evenly. Now with the struts replaced, here's the before of how bouncy the driver's side was. And look how stable it is now. This is what you want. And no more drum roll noise going over bumps.